Hey everybody, Ron here. Today we're going to go over the reconfiguration of the robot's mastering reference position. The mastering reference position is essentially the ground zero for the robot to understand where it is in space. From time to time, it may become necessary to reteach the robot where this point is. All right, let's go ahead and run this procedure. So before you begin, some things that you need to do are to make sure that you removed all your equipment from the camera, and the only thing that's still attached is our cheese plate. This needs to, of course, always stay on and never be removed anyway, but this is the only thing that you need on here. You'll also notice that the fizz cable has been removed so it's not loose and in the way as we move the robot around. Now that you have all your equipment removed, and the robot is in essentially this configuration with nothing on it, we're going to go ahead and move into the steps to finish this process. The first thing that you're going to need to do is to give control over to the KUKA system. So you will turn the key switch on the sim to A, and then use the KUKA pendant, flip its key switch to the gear icon, select T1, and then flip it back. So now with the KUKA pendant in control, what we're going to do is we're going to use the KUKA pendant to manually move the robot with the back of the cheese plate down in front of the mastering reference switch. The mastering reference switch is the switch that is on the bottom base of your robot on either the left or the right side, depending on your configuration, and it will have the two illuminated yellow LED lights on the back, and then on the front, the two green dots that you will have the back of this cheese plate come right up against when you put the robot in its final position to reprogram the mastering reference point. On the KUKA pendant, as you probably noticed on the far right side, you have icons that say A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and those are the different axes on the robot. On the back, you're going to notice that there are these gray paddles. These are the same enable switches as would be on the Sisu tablet that you can push halfway down to enable movement of the robot and then release to have it stop, or push all the way down and clamp and have a dead man switch. What we're going to do, however, is switch the icons from the A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to a different set of X, Y, Z axis so that it's much easier to put the robot in its mastering position. On the KUKA pendant, above where it says A1, you're going to see a little robot icon. If you tap that robot icon, you're going to get options to switch from axis movement to world movement to base movement and so on and so forth. What we want to select on is world. And once you do that, what you've noticed is you've got X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C. This will make the motion and the movement to get the robot's cheese plate down to the proper position on the mastering reference switch much easier than trying to move one joint at a time with A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Of course, there are also the plus and minus buttons here, and you'll press those to move in those axes, left, right, up, down, as you need to get down to the mastering reference. Simply hold down halfway one of the paddles, doesn't matter which one, and you'll notice that the X, Y, Z, A, B, C highlight in green. At that point, I'm able to move the robot in whichever way that I need to, so that I can position this down by the mastering reference switch. One more thing to note. To make these manual motions go faster, you'll notice that down at the very bottom right corner, there is a hand icon, and you have the plus minus buttons next to those. If you press the plus a few times, you'll actually be able to get each one of the joints to move a lot faster than it was originally, which will be really nice instead of taking all that time. So I'm going to go ahead and position the robot as I need to. So at this point, we've got the robot and the cheese plate very close to the mastering sensor. We're not in the exact proper position yet, but what we're going to do is we're going to back this up so that the back of the cheese plate almost make contact with the sensor itself, and these two LED lights turn off. We don't want either of those lights still illuminated. If one goes off and the other does not, we still have a little bit of work to do. And there we go. Both LED lights are turned off. The cheese plate is straight and flat, and there is a tiny little bit of space, about a millimeter or two, between the sensors and the cheese plate. We don't want to actually make contact with the sensor itself, just get it close enough for those lights to turn off. Okay, so now that the robot is in its proper position to set the mastering reference point, we're going to go ahead and go back to the KUKA pendant to do all of the settings changes in the menu so that the robot remembers where this position is. So the first thing you're going to have to do is log in on the KUKA pendant as a safety maintenance technician. You'll do that by hitting the people icon on the screen, far left of the screen. Select Safety Maintenance Technician and use the password, which is KUKA, K-U-K-A, no capitals, no spaces, or K. Once you're logged in properly, up at the top you'll get the status message that says your status has been switched from operator to safety maintenance technician. Now we'll be able to access the appropriate parts of the menu that an operator login would not be able to do so. The next step through the menu goes like this. You are going to select on the robot icon up at the top. Then you're going to go to Configuration, Safety Configuration. It's going to open up the safety configuration options. Then you're going to select on Reference Position. Once you've selected on the Reference Position tab at the bottom right of the screen, go up and look for the Touch Up Reference Position for Group button in the top middle of the screen. Select on that, and that will touch up each one of the reference points based on the position of the robot that you've moved into next to the mastering reference switch. Finally, down in the bottom middle, hit the Save button, confirm the yes, that should all changes to the local safety configuration be applied, and wait a moment for this to finish. Once this process is finished, go ahead and hit OK, and then use the orange X button on the far left to exit out of the menu. After completing the touch-up of the reference position, now we're going to need to get into the robot's menu system to finalize this position. So on the screen of the KUKA pendant, look up at the top left corner. You're going to find the robot icon in the file system where it says Windows, some characters and numbers, and then KRC. Select on that, and that will open up your filing system. You'll see the file folder R1. Select on R1. Go down a little bit further, you'll see the folder that says System. Below that, select on System. Once you're in the System folder, you're going to look for the file that is the masterrefuser.src. There may be another file that'll look very similar, but you'll notice that it would say masterrefuser.dat. Don't select that one, select the one that says src. Once you've highlighted masterrefuser.src, hit the Open button on the bottom right of the screen. Now you'll see all the information that makes up that file. Carefully scroll until you find LIN P2 or PTP P2. LIN P2 is on my screen, and all I'm going to do is tap on that to put a cursor in it. I don't really care about where it is in that line, but that the cursor is on that line. I'm going to go down to the bottom to where the Change button is. I'm going to tap that, and then over on the far right of the bottom of the screen, there is the Touch Up button, and I'm going to select that. It's going to ask me if I want to overwrite this position, and I'm going to say yes. In the top of the screen where the status are, it will say the current coordinates have been applied to XP2. And after you do that, you are going to hit Command OK. The screen will say the data list will be modified irrevocably. Say yes. And now the full list of data has been modified. At this point, we are going to exit this part of the menu by hitting the red X on the top left. Now the mastering reference position for point 2 has been reconfigured at the point next to the mastering reference switch on the robot. From here, for touching up the mastering reference position at the mastering reference switch, the procedure is complete. Now we're going to go back into T1 on the sim, go back to external control on the KUKA pendant, and try the mastering check again. All right, now I've reconfigured the robot's mastering reference position, and I'm going to go ahead and move the robot. Now that I'm back to T1 on the sim, external on the KUKA pendant, we're going to move the robot into a normal position and then run the mastering check again to make sure everything went well. The mastering test is completed successfully. A couple of notes. This procedure is in the robot manual under Appendix A. You'll be able to follow along all those steps and do exactly what we've done to do this procedure properly. If you're not familiar with the mastering check procedure, that's also going to be in one of our tutorial videos on our Partner Portal website.